First thing we want to do in graphing a function, a trig function, cosine here, is we want to locate, identify, I guess, the period, 2 pi over b. b in this case is 1. It's always the number, the coefficient of the variable, the independent variable, and that's 1, so we have 2 pi. So let's make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's a bummer. Let's go 3 then. 3, 6, there's halfway, there's another halfway, and there's a halfway there. So let's just do that. Let's call that 2 pi. The next step is to cut the period in half. Next step is to cut the first half of the period in half. And then the fourth step is to cut this period, this part of the period in half. And so if this is 1 pi over 2, 3 little lines is 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. Think about it as multiplying that one by 3. And then the next step is to find and plot the amplitude. The amplitude is always going to be the absolute value of A. A in this case is -5. So the amplitude is 5. And so if we just plot the amplitude up there somewhere, let's put it up there at the top. Put the amplitude of 5 right there, and then so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry about that one there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it down there, -5. So then the very next step is to plot the 5 key points that correspond to the parent function. Now the parent function, if A is negative and we have cosine, that's going to look like this one. So A is negative, cosine. So all we have to do is plot the 5 key points, draw the line dotted if C is not 0, and C is not 0. So we're going to draw it dotted or dashed, however you look at it. And after drawing that, we're going to take this graph, we're going to shift it pi over 4 radians to the right. So we're going to go right pi over 4. So that means since these are sectioned off, since my period is sectioned off by pi over 2's, half of pi over 2 is going to be the pi over 4. So now since we have to move it to the right pi over 4, we have to actually create some more x values here. So 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4. All we're going to do is count by pi over 4s. Every little hash mark now, or little tick mark, is pi over 4 radians. 1, 2, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4, 8 pi over 4, and 9 pi over 4. So once we identify those x values, now we just want to move each of these 5 points to the right pi over 4 radians. If that were a plus sign, then we'd be moving these points to the left. So that point right there gets to move to the right pi over 4, and so does that point, this one here, as well as finally that one. And then we draw the graph through the 5 points. And there we have it. And we know that it keeps going forever like that, but there we have the graph. And in the next video I will show you how to find the defining characteristics.